Money moves. Never let you look at life. Keep it always cool. Yo, success ain't a straight line, they flip their fate. Turn setbacks to comebacks, now they're straight greats. From the grind to the shine, watch the pros improve. On unconventional money, it's the next gen groove. Genius minds outside the lines. On unconventional money, we rise and shine. Unconventional money moves, where success rewrites the rules.
Welcome, Dr. Scott. Unconventional Money Moves. Happy to have you on today.
How you doing, Josh?
So far, so good. I was excited to have you on because you're a retired U.S. Navy chief, and I always find it interesting when you can go into whatever branch of military that you can go into, and then you can come out into civilian life and find success, because I know a lot of folks struggle with that. So it's interesting to hear how you took a military career and transitioned over to civilian life, overcame a couple obstacles. Well, not a couple. I think you've overcome a lot of obstacles based on what I know about you, and just chatting about how you did all that. So happy to have you here today. And I know I guess your journey started, well, before the Navy in 1994, but you wrote down that's when you enlisted in the Navy, and it seems like that's what really shaped to who you are today in terms of the faith and the culture that you're looking to build inside of your organization. So what made you decide to want to join the Navy? Because when I told my parents I wanted to join the military, they told me straight up no, and I uh, I agreed with that. Well, I don't know if I agreed, but I listened.
Well, I was a bit of a troubled teen. So I had run away from home and done a whole bunch of bad things. I would say bad things, and I wasn't hooked on drugs or anything like that. I just wanted to do my own thing. Typical uh, young person. I came from a kind of a poor background. My dad was an immigrant from this country, and he came here and he had 5 kids, and him and my mom owned a janitorial business, and they worked hard for a living. They worked very, very hard for a living, and so I grew up in a culture like that where nothing was kind of given to you. You had to work hard for everything you had, and my brother had joined the Navy about 5 years before me, and so I got to a point where I felt like, you know what, I needed to make a change, and I need to do something different. So that calling the Navy was a logical thing for me.
Yeah. Any stories you're able to share that don't get you in too much trouble about what you were getting into before the Navy?
Oh well, you know, eh, car theft.
Oh, Grand Theft Auto. That's always good.
um, uh, well, I don't. I think that the status of limitations is done on this one, but uh, mailboxes was a big thing. I
Oh,
don't know.
crushing mailboxes.
Yes, crush the mailboxes. I played sports in high school, but outside of like say football season, I was a mess. I just did whatever, and I was smart enough to get through school and not really have to put a lot of effort into it. So that was kind of my thing outside of football season. I just looked for something to do, and that thing was getting in trouble. A lot of it had to do with the fact that I just didn't want to listen to my mom and dad. I just wanted to do my own thing. So that 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 ultimately resulted in me being homeless when I was young and doing a lot of different things, and those are the type of things I grew up in New Mexico, and New Mexico is a pretty rough place to grow up in. It's kind of the hometown I grew up in had about 3,000 people, and in that 3,000 people, we had one stoplight in the entire town, and um, so there wasn't much to do except get into trouble. So that's what I did.
Well, it's fun to get into trouble when
So
you know you can get out of it. So it sounds like having when you didn't have structure, such as playing football in high school, that's when you just ran wild.
yeah, pretty much, and then plus, it was a big maturity thing. You as a young man, you really don't hit your maturity streak till you're probably in your early 20s. And I was just young and stupid and didn't think about the future.
It's hard to think about the future, even, sometimes when you're older, just because it seems so far away. But then you start to look back, you're like, "Oh,
But then you
yeah,
wake up one day and you're 40 years old and you're asking, how did I get here?
I know." I'm like there. Well, I'm like, "Man, I have 2 kids now." That's weird. That's weird. I think, I used to listen to, like, Joe Rogan's stand-up before he got, like, super popular, and
Yes.
he's like, "All of a sudden, you're in the grocery store, and then the bag boy calls you sir." He's like, when did that happen?" So, I always remember that. It's like, "Oh,
Nice.
the bag person called me sir."
I'd I well, that's yeah, I'm starting to realize I turned 50 this year, and I realized, man, I'm officially old. So I laughed. I gave my wife her AARP card because it came in the mail. So, they make you feel really great when you get one of those in the mail. But you know what? There's a lot of good things too. You don't make the same stupid mistakes, and every challenge you go after, you do it with perspective, and perspective is important, uh, because it allows you to push through things that when you're young it would be very difficult to deal with.
Yeah. My wife and I were watching a show called Sneaky Pete with, Bryan Cranston,
Hmm.
uh Walter White from, New Mexico. Maybe you knew a couple
Yes.
of those Walter White people in real
Yes.
life in New Mexico. Uh, but he was, like, at the card table, and he was about to get scammed out of money, and he, like, had a moment. He's like, "I've been in this scene before, and I know exactly what's gonna happen." And then he goes through his whole, monologue, and he's like, "This next card is gonna be a jack of spades, and there's only 1 card in this deck that can beat me, and it's the jack of spades." And then he pulls it out, jack of spades. He goes, "I knew it." So it's the same thing in, like, business and life. You get in certain situations, you're like, "Wait, I've been here before," versus when you're, you know, going through it for the first time, you haven't been there before, so it's hard to navigate those certain situations.
Yeah, and it just, and also, I think about the things, that the stress um, and the difficulties business has, because losing everything is a tough thing to think about, especially when you have a family, you know. But you have to be willing to do that in order to be, in my opinion, in order to be successful at what we do every day, and that's go out there and build a business. And that reckless abandon, and I won't say it's total reckless abandon because you have to do it in a way that's wise, but that reckless abandon is held back by that wisdom and understanding that there's times to be patient, there's times to push ahead, there's times you just need to hold tight. And that's when you're a young man or woman, you that fear, grips you. And as you get more perspective, there's less fear involved there. At least it is for me, I would have to say. Yeah, some people say when they accumulate more in life that they get more fear because they have more to lose. I think of it kind of opposite. I think of it as, well, that actually gives you more freedoms to do things than, because wealth is really, really simple. And it's, when you get up today, can you determine what you gonna go do? Because that's what it is. If you have enough money to do that, and then you're wealthy, no matter how much money you make.
Yeah, I see that mindset a lot in the investment world. People get to a certain point, they're like, "Well, I have a lot of money, I gotta start focusing on protecting it." And I'm like, "You're 50. Like, you still got a long ways to go. You don't wanna be hitting the gas stop hitting the gas pedal too soon. You don't want to be hitting the brakes too fast either." Or on the flip side, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there who feel like they can't afford to lose anything and they just have a scarcity mindset and they're just never do anything, which is obviously the worst thing you could do is just not take any sort of action because with no action, there's no reaction. And without that, you're just going to be sitting there in a world you don't understand.
No, and it's there. There's a lot to what you just said there. There's definitely a lot there, but if realizing how much fear controls people is probably one of the things that amazes me. And it's not a fear of like, hey, I'm gonna die, so I need to take this drastic action. It's really the fear. The fear goes into I'm comfortable. The fear of being uncomfortable. You know, like, I know that I can lay my head down and go to bed tonight at 10 o'clock. Well, what if you didn't have that guarantee? You know, are you willing to do something that's uncomfortable? And um, you probably read the book Good to Great, but it talks a lot about that, about trying not to be too overly comfortable and then on the upside, but not also be too reckless also. So that's why I always say wisdom is the intersection of experience and education, not, you know, one in spite of the other. Because sometimes people think wisdom's just experience. Well, that's great to have just experience, but if you have no way to back that up with any background, any base. I mean, I do construction for a living. If I'm putting a schedule together for a project, I got to have the base knowledge of how a concrete wall goes up, you know? So you got to have that base level knowledge. But beyond that, I mean, it's really, it's, it's really about, how do you apply that, and that's through experience, So I know a lot of people have that thing, especially people who are, and I'm not really, I won't say I'm not a fan of higher education. I am a fan of higher education, but I'm not sold on everything higher education does. And just because I think there's a lot of waste and a lot of unnecessary things in there, but but I still think it's extremely valuable. And so when I hear people say, "Don't go to school or don't pursue higher education," I just think that maybe that could be some bad advice because you don't have to learn from mistakes. You can also learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah, it's always easier to learn from other people's mistakes.
Yes, and far less costly. Everything has a cost. There's tuition. There's always tuition,
Oh,
So
yeah.
sometimes the tuition costs you a lot of money. Sometimes it doesn't. So
Yeah, I mean, you were saying some folks never wanna take any risk. However, when it comes to, like, doing things, most people are like, "What if I fail?" Versus, like, thinking I was watching, I forget the name of the documentary, but it was, about the SEAL Team 6 that went after
yes.
Bin Laden, and I mean,
Mhm.
I'm obviously not experienced like you who has actually served in the Navy. However, what I found very interesting is when they were planning for that and they were prepping for that, they literally practiced every situation that they could possibly think of that could possibly happen. So most people plan like, if I make 100 phone calls a day, I'm going to make these sales and everything's going to be good versus thinking about the situation and actually putting yourself through they were actually like building up the thing every day. Like the
Yes.
actual like sketches and like having to rebuild it every day, like actually like putting yourself in the moment of what you're looking to do, whether it's start a business or your first job and like put yourself in that seat and how to navigate every situation that comes up, such as we were attempting to do this podcast. I had one thing that failed without missing a beat. I'm like, all right, boom, send you a different link. Now we're on here. Didn't even miss a beat just because I know if this doesn't work, then I got to go to plan B. And if plan B doesn't work, then I'm out of luck because I don't have a plan C, but usually plan B always works.
Well, there's a lot to be said about muscle memory, about, you fall. And this is something I reviewed with my leadership team recently was that you don't, when you have difficulties, you don't fall back to your ability to overcome obstacles. You fall back to your level of preparedness. And that's true. I mean, think about it. When something goes bad, what do? You go to your natural, you know how human beings work is we go to our natural innate being, like, if we're hungry, what do? We search out food. And the longer we don't have food, we'll continue to do stuff, do stuff, do stuff until we have food, you know? And it's it's just and I don't know where I was going with that, but I just said my whole point is that when you prepare like it's like breathing, where you get so ingrained in you in that muscle memory, just like within football or with any kind of sport, then it's easy when the times come on. And I remember that specific documentary because it didn't go to plan. The helicopter went down, and they had to overcome it. I think what was interesting is they realized that there was going to be some false gates, and there was. So they tried to blow the gate open, and they realized it was just a false gate, there. So then they went to the other one, and but if they never planned for that, what would they have done at that point? And I think about the same thing for business. Instead of just worrying about what's going to happen, play it out. You know, play it out and say, okay, if the worst happened, this is what the outcome could be. Now, can I deal with that worst outcome? And if you can, then there's nothing to be fearful of. If you can't, then you can develop strategies to mitigate that fear. So somebody who's dealt with anxiety, which is funny because when I tell people that, they're like, "Hold on, you're a CEO and you've dealt with anxiety?" Yes, I have dealt with anxiety, and dealing with anxiety, I can tell you the best way to deal with anxiety is just to tackle the issue and don't let it just hang out there with some unknown consequence, because that for me makes me absolutely go crazy. So
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read the book that you were saying, Good to Great. What is it? Good to Great, you were saying?
yes.
I don't think I've read it. Uh, but I have been reading an Eckhart Tolle book, and it's about like being being present, like in the moment. Like,
Hmm.
and I believe that's where a lot of people go wrong because they'll be like, "Oh, I have a problem," versus like the book talks about there's no problems, there's just situations. And the most important time that you have is right now because the past is gone and the future is gone. All you have is right now. So whenever you're going through a situation, you got to be like, I'm in the moment right now. I got to like tackle it. I got to be in it. And it kind of reminds me when I think about that, the Fight Club movie with Brad Pitt
Yes.
when he's like put the acid on his hand. He's like, "This is your moment. Be here. Be here now." And then like his mind's trying to escape because the pain is uh so terrible. And
Mhm.
sometimes when you're going through pain, you want to attempt to escape the pain, but by attempting to escape the pain, then you're not staying in the moment and figuring out how to navigate a certain situation. So, with you being in the Navy, was there any I mean, I'm sure they taught you things. I mean, what did you learn from the Navy that translated to being able to be a CEO, being able to overcome those anxieties? Because when you're the CEO of a company, you're pretty much just dealing with problems all day.
Well, there's a lot of truth to that. You really, you're the solution. You're the person that has the solution to, well, to everything ultimately, because you have to make it. But if you run your business right, I had to say that we have something called bumps and guardrails. Just like a freeway. So if you go off the road, the bumps are there as a warning. So it's something you should talk to, like I talked to my president. Those are, about if we have a payment that's 60 days overdue, he'll communicate with me and say, okay, we have this payment that's 60 days overdue. What is your advice? Here's the situation. And then I'm not directing him to do anything because it's just advice. The guardrail comes where he goes, well, we're at 90 days. We're losing our bond rights here. I need you to give me some guide, not just guidance, but direction, on where to go. And we have that for every level in our organization. And it helps to where I don't feel like I have to make all the decisions, because sometimes when you have a founder that grows his company, they they get to a point where they are making all the decisions, and that's a worst place to be, because that means your business can't survive without you.
Yeah.
And So that's a major problem, especially if you want to monetize that, your business someday.
You mean by, like, exiting or selling?
Yes, by exiting. So I'm doing exiting via ESOP, employee stock ownership, and so my plan is a little more laid out. Uh, but um, but once again, having because it's going to have to eventually, deal without me. So uh, training the people in those positions. To be able to handle issues, and I'm very fortunate in my business. I have some very good staff, and they handle business and when business needs to be handled.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is now with, AI, you can create a Scott bot.
Yes.
Have you looked into that at all?
Yes, we're actually going through the process of of having a building one for our different our all our different sectors, loading the information in, and yeah, it is really interesting. Talking right for you and the whole deal.
Yeah, it's really cool. I've done it for our company just because we don't have as many, employees and workers as you do yet. So I figured like, hey, let me just use this AI stuff and I'll create different chatbots for different things. And now I cut the time into fractions of what I used to have to spend. And then I don't have to hire people. So that way I can keep more retained earnings inside the company and then grow it faster. And then eventually I'll be able to, delegate those roles off. When you
Absolutely.
started your company, I mean, was it just you? Did you have anyone with you like that? What was that like?
Well, no, it was just me, and so after I retired from the Navy, I went to go work for a company that built embassies overseas, um, and U.S. embassies overseas, and then I did that for a few years, and then I felt like it was about time for me to maybe do something different. Um, so um, I went and taught for a few years at a university, and during that time, I started my business. And so it was just me as the founder. And then as it grew from me in 2008 to uh, currently with all of our staff, about 222 people, 223 people, right in that range right now. So, so that's a lot of people, a lot of problems, but a lot of excitement too, you know? So,
222 folks inside of an organization. How do you keep culture when you get to that level? Because most business owners have trouble going from themselves to just one person, let alone 222 inside of an organization that you're responsible for in terms of payroll every however much you're paying them, every couple weeks. That payroll is going out to all those people inside of your organization.
yeah, I mean, our payroll is 400 some odd $1,000 a week. And, that sounds crazy when I think about it right now. That sounds absolutely crazy compared to where we came from. But, um, it's, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say most business owners can't even imagine making $400,000 a year, let alone $400,000 payroll.
I know. Well, it can be a little daunting and a little scary, but the key really is actually not as complicated as most people think. There's a lot of smart people out there creating many different systems, one of them being EOS. I don't know, do you follow EOS?
It's not popping in my head, so
Okay.
don't
So
know.
EOS stands for Entrepreneur Operating System, and it's just a system of how you handle business, different things, how do you handle communication? How do you handle, data? How do you handle this and how do you handle that? But one of the big items on there was and at first I thought this seems kind of stupid because it wasn't. We just had a few people, so I didn't think. But it was you need to create a vision and a mission and core values. And I thought, it's kind of dumb. It's just a couple of us. Why do we really care? But I wanted to care because I wanted the business to grow. So we created a vision for our company, and our vision is because we're a missions based organization. We're a for profit. I would say we're a for profit mission-minded organization. So what does that mean? That means we take 10% of everything we make and we do God's work, out here. So that may be paying for somebody's funeral. That may be, uh, buying a travel trailer for somebody because their house got flooded. I mean, I can give you a litany of things that we've done over the years. With that 10% of our net profits. And it's been life changing for people, and it's been life changing for the company. But our vision is we're in the business of building the kingdom business, because you have to have a solid business model in order to be successful. Obviously, building because we do construction, and kingdom because we're a Christian minded organization, and that comes from my faith. And so that that's our vision for a company. Well, then we have to ask, okay, well, that's why we do everything, but what do we do? And with the what is using our Christian values, we make our clients' needs easy. We do a lot of different things. We do staffing, we do project administration, we do training, we do expert witness. So it's a lot of different things within the space that we're in. But at the end of the day, our job is just to make whoever our client is their needs easy, because in construction, customer service is dead, you know? And so if you just try to you know, put your best foot forward. And if someone needs help and they need it immediately, you jump through hoops to be able to make it happen. Um, I want people to work with me, not because I'm the low dollar value. We are reasonable, but I want the people to work with me because they know they're going to get the job done and get it done right. So, so that's our mission. And then we laid out core values, and our 3 core values are real simple. It's do the right thing, have extreme urgency, and be the gold standard. So why did I choose those? I chose those because those were the reasons that we grew initially. It's not like I just pulled them out of the air. It's just, we that's how we were successful. We were successful because we just always did the right thing. And sometimes we lost money, sometimes we made money, but we always did the right thing. And then we always did it with extreme urgency, because construction is a very time oriented business. And then we always did it with a high level of competency. So using that basic model, now I've taken that and I pushed it out to our entire staff. And now we have 220 some odd people out there preaching, do the right thing, have extreme urgency, and be the gold standard. And they preach it back and forth to each other. We start at every meeting with our a prayer, vision, mission, and core values. So it becomes something that's vital and important, and it guides people's action without micromanaging them. So
Yeah, when you
I know
say
that was, I
yeah,
know that's a mouthful.
yeah, I mean, when you say it, it's like it sounds so simple. However, this most people forget that, like, it's the simple things that typically make the biggest difference when it comes to anything that you're doing, like the
Mhm.
basic fundamentals. And then sometimes when you get more advanced, you forget about those basic fundamentals, and that's where things could go wrong. And simply by just doing the right thing, sometimes you could do the right thing and it doesn't work out, but you believed it was the right thing. And I'm sure that's protected you and your business, because when you're first starting out in business, especially construction, one bad deal and your business could be gone like
Yes.
that.
And that's you're right. There's so much litigation involved, and we're coming up on, what are we, 16 years now. Um, so, eh, when you think about that, you think to yourself, and we're coming up on 20 here very soon. Is how do you run a business without worrying about getting sued? Because we have a lot of sue happy people out there. But if you just do the right thing and you do it with extreme urgency, I work as an expert witness for companies. Mostly deal with safety, quality, or any construction management things. But at the end of the day, what you learn is as a judge, a mitigator, a jury, all of them are people.
Mhm.
So they all have a sense of doing what is right. So if you can bring to the table that you try to do what was right, I always say, let the chips fall where they may, because that's where they will. So every time we get in trouble, I should say get in trouble. Every time we think that we're getting in trouble, we always just try to do the right thing and do the best job that we can. And if you do that, everything generally works out. And I'm not going to say these words, but I got to say these words. And knock on wood, but we've never had to sue or never been sued in the entire time. And I'm knocking on wood here because I don't want that to happen. But that's it comes from that whole philosophy of just doing the right thing. And we shake somebody's hand. You commit to them to get something accomplished, and some of that stuff is just lost. Seems so simple, but it gets lost.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that is. Do you think it's always been that way? It's just now with like technology and social media, it just seems to happen more often, or at least people are more aware of like, I don't know. It just seems like a lot of scammy people out there, especially I know the construction business. We used to live in Florida, like down in Miami. Uh, it was really prevalent. Construction company starts, LLC takes money, doesn't finish the job,
Yes.
close down LLC, and then leaves the state.
Yeah, and you know what? And it's that what you described there is very, very common. But I also think that you attract what you uh who you are,
Hmm.
and we've had those people that have been crooks or whatever, and we figure it out real quick. And I always say we fire them, but we figure out where you people will tell you who they are. The problem is that people just don't listen. Think about that. People will tell you who they are based on their actions. So if they are not credible people, if they are not people of character, they are going to act that way every single day. It's not like they're just going to come out like that when things go bad. That's just who they are. And you just got to watch that behavior and be aware of that. And this is something that I think that the simple things as you described are things that have always eluded people, because we always think of things as being far more complex. And the reason I say that is because I've read multiple Jack Welch books, and he says, and one of his claims to fame is making things simple, and it's true. And I think that that's the key there, just making things that are complex simple. And um, I don't, there's a lot of complex things in what we do, but at the end of the day, it's just, if you do the right thing and you try to do it with some urgency, and make sure you do a good job doing it, then everything will work its way out.
Yeah, very simple concept. I've done the right thing and things go wrong and people want to blame me sometimes. Uh and then it's basically just like, well, I sent you 3 different emails at 3 different points in times asking you to do this and you just ignored me. So, why are we in this situation?
Yeah. Eh,
I dislike having to like, I don't want to be like I got you moment, but it's kind of like, well, how many times do you need to like tell someone, hey, like you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, and then they just don't do it, and then eventually the procrastination catches up, and then they just want to point the finger because it's very hard to look yourself in the mirror and admit when you're wrong, unless you have a very good character and you can like be extremely honest with yourself.
mhm. And if you're not going to do anything, just say it. So but we also try to take the next step and try to lay out things as easy and simple as possible. But I get you what I'm saying. I get what you're saying too, because I do have those clients that will come back to me and be like, well, you didn't do this for me, you didn't do that for me. There's probably a reason that they're saying that, probably because they're under some duress. So understanding that is a key piece. And then I always try to turn the conversation from it being confrontational to being a way that we could help each other, and that has always played out well, So um, not always, because not everybody wants to play that nice.
Yeah, I mean, recently for me, it came down to like I was in the situation. I was like, man, they're coming at me hard right now. They're just like not being nice. It's easy not to be nice over a telephone versus when
Yes.
you're with someone in the real world or even on video call. It's people are much nicer. And I was just like, do you want to have a conversation or do you want me to just send you documentation on the reason why this happened? And they're like, send me the documentation. I was like, well, now I have to work on a Sunday for like 2.5 hours putting all this together, just like I did when I worked at large financial corporations. And you have to go through all the red tape when things go wrong, and you have to do all the meetings and all the emails and all the documentation. And then you send it all, and you just never hear back from them.
Well, that means you're apparently right.
Yeah, but it stinks that you have to get to that point sometimes, and a lot of people don't realize. I mean, it's happened to me. I've had things taken from me, money. People have done things wrong, but I've learned from like reading and having a little bit of faith is you have to look at the positive of every situation. It's like, well, I was probably going to lose this money anyway. This is just how I lost it, so it's over with. And that's one thing I really admired about Michael Jordan is he really had a positive mindset even after like his father died and all the things that happened with him, the
Mhm.
gambling. I don't think most people could have handled what he had to handle through all that scrutiny that he had to go through as you know, the global icon that he was before the internet was a thing.
Well, what was incredible to me about Jordan is, I mean, there's two things. Number one is that uh, the guy always lived up to the hype. Always. He's one person that just was hyped up, and he always ended up stepping up and living up to the hype. But I also remember the one thing that I would have to, I won't say criticism, because who am I to criticize somebody as successful as he is? But I do want to remind him that there are times where you don't have to defend who you are, because, and this is, somebody gave me this analogy. They said when Michael Jordan got put in the Basketball Hall of Fame for his speech, his acceptance speech, he talked about how, he didn't make his high school basketball team, how he got cut, and about those different things or whatever. And he turned the conversation to be more like, well, I proved them wrong. But the reality is that he don't need to tell anybody that. The guy's the best basketball player in the world, He doesn't need to get up on stage and say any of that. He can just be humble and say, I appreciate what you've done, or what you guys have done to celebrate my success, and just, that's it. Because you don't need to fight. People already know you're the best, not even just basketball player, one of probably the best athletes of all time. And so I've learned a lot from that lesson too, about like, there are some fights that are just not worth fighting, because it's 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 other people will fight for you. If you want to badmouth you, and if it's not true, let them badmouth you. That's a hard one for me, is because when I treat somebody nice, or I try to be kind, and then they turn around and say bad stuff about me, that is kind of painful, to me, and probably one of the stuff I've had to distasteful things I've had to deal with business. But I don't need to go around to everybody, well, look at what I did, look at what he did. I just need to continue to do what I do every single day, and eventually people will figure out that all that stuff. I don't need to go out there and defend myself. So, but but he's Michael Jordan was definitely, he is an incredible guy. You ever watch The Last Dance?
Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I've probably watched it 30 times because my wife always she's like, how can you watch that so many times? I go, it's not about the basketball. They created the perfect team.
Yes.
Every person had their role and
With the imperfect people.
everyone did their role well. And I played basketball and my coach always said, do what you do. Don't worry about what other people do. Just do what you do. And on that team, everyone just did their job and no one did more, no one did less. And then they all just accepted it and everyone knows about the Bulls of the
Yes.
90s.
I thought it was interesting how, because Luke Longley um, went to the University of New Mexico where I grew up, and so I kind of followed him through. And he just went to the Bulls right when I was graduating high school, and I thought it was interesting the dynamic that him and Jordan had about how it was kind of like Jordan was very confrontational with him, because he wanted to elevate his game. And I thought that was interesting how some people didn't appreciate it, though. They didn't appreciate the fact that he wanted to elevate everybody. And I can say honestly, as a founder myself, I have that problem too. Is my push to people sometimes can alienate people, can upset people, even if they understand I'm trying to do it for their benefit.
Yeah, I mean, some people just can't get pushed. But that's where having a great coach and knowing how to communicate a message, you may not push them to their full potential, but at least you can push them to doing better than what they're already doing, which is a win. But it is painful when you see the potential in someone and you know what they could achieve, but they're not willing to do it. It's like you see it all the time. I mean, it's more common than people realize, but I mean, I see it in people. I'm like, man, you got so much potential, and you don't even realize it.
Well, and you know what? Maybe I say this all the time. Maybe they got it figured out because maybe I'm missing it. you know and I think about that when there's some people in my life that I just have a very, very high opinion of, but I think they could do so much more. But part of me is like, well, maybe they got to figure it out. Maybe they know what life is about. Maybe life is not about what I put as important, um or what I believe is important. And that has that that's a difficult one. For I wish I knew the answer to that one, if but I think everybody has their own kind of path. uh and some people's path is be the best. Although I want to, I have 4 kids and I want to be the best dad, but be the best dad ever. But even a good thing can never be the ultimate thing unless it's about you know faith. So, like, take something like marriage is a good thing. Well, technically. But uh, marriage is a good thing. But if you depend upon your marriage to be able to stand you up to everything that goes wrong in life, and you put it above everything, and you never compromise a little bit of time or never do anything different, but that could be taken away from you in a minute. Same thing for like money, you know? It could be taken away from you in just a minute. So you have to have some. That's why for me, faith has been the thing, because I've been able to have something that is a strong foundation that's not changing. And I'm not making those other things the ultimate thing. Money is not the ultimate thing. Cars, I have a lot of interest. I love cars. I love motorcycles. I love watches. I love construction stuff. I love tools. But if the tools were the most important thing in my life, then what happens when they get broken? Am I going to be broken? So, you got to put it in something that is more solid than a rock, because even a rock is not um, as strong as you think it is. I mean, look at a cliff and how much damage a water can do to via erosion. So, what are you going to place your faith in, or what are you going to place your hope in? And you can't. I always say you can't put it in a person, and you can't put it in a thing. you have to figure out something that's bigger than that. And for me, it's my faith.
For sure. I mean, you have over 200 people that you've helped them create a life for themselves. You started a business, it sounds like by yourself in the beginning, and that's something to be super proud of. So when you were going through a difficult situation, what was that difficult situation and how did faith get you through it?
I had to say probably more than anything is probably knowing that there is some reason behind why it's going through it. You know, God doesn't care about your comfort; He cares about your character. And knowing that, I can understand when times get difficult that this is a good character building experience. This past year has been a struggle because of all the things that happened economically between tariffs and the uncertainty in the construction market, projects getting canceled, owners not sure or holding back. There's a lot of those things that happen. But knowing that you have hope that is bigger than that is it's for me, it's a peace thing. It gives me peace to know that something that's uh you can't, and doesn't mean that you're not motivated to do something. I'm very motivated to do something. I'm very motivated to be successful and grow the business and do all the things I need to do. But that doesn't mean that I'm making all those things the ultimate thing, because you can wake up tomorrow or not wake up tomorrow. And none of those things really matter, because if me and you die tomorrow, it doesn't matter what I've done here. It really doesn't matter. So it can all be taken away. The business can be shut down. The only thing you have is, and I hate to use the L word, but the legacy that you leave behind. And the legacy that I want to leave is a legacy of people asking why. Why was why did Scotty try to be a good guy and try to always do the right thing? Well, I did it because of my faith, not because I'm just a good person. I did it. I did it because I have a strong faith that, because God loved me, I have to love other people, and so that has guided my actions. And then also, more important than anything, and I know that we're talking on a podcast and other people are listening, but we don't go out and really advertise about what we do, because I believe that kind of takes away from it a little bit. And I struggle with that because I also want to inspire other people to help people. But in the same token, I don't want anybody to give me a pat on the back. And my unwillingness to accept gratitude sometimes, I think, is an inhibitor to our continued growth. But we're working through that.
Yeah, just being able to say thank you. And someone gives you a
Yes.
compliment, that's the starting point. And I believe what you said had a lot of deep meaning. I think if people are doing what you're doing, seeking that pat on the back versus doing it and not expecting the pat on the back is completely different. And I believe you have the mindset of not expecting the pat on the back. At the same time, though, if someone tells you did a good job and you're doing good work, you know, you just gotta let it in.
Yeah. And you're right, and that's a tough thing, and a lot of people think that that would be easy, but it's actually kind of tough, because it's kind of like, well, I don't feel like, especially when I take the credit for 220 some odd people, I don't feel like I'm not out there doing it. I have a lot of people out there doing it, on my behalf. So
Well, if you didn't do it, then they can't do it. So without what you've done, then they wouldn't be able to do what they do. So I think that's really cool. And
true.
sounds like you're doing it all.
Well, uh, I try to get up every day and do it again, and it's not an easy thing, but it can be rewarding, especially when you see people have children and grow into bigger positions and win, because that's what gets me fired up, is seeing other people win. Obviously they win, I win, but uh, you don't do it because you win. You do it because you take joy in seeing other people win. So it's just a side benefit of, at least in my opinion, me winning is a side benefit of the joy I get from seeing other people be successful.
Sounds like a beautiful thing to me. Well, Scott, I've enjoyed the conversation. Before I let you go, is there anything have you done a lot of podcasts? Is this your first couple? Since you said
Well,
you don't like being on camera a lot?
no, I've done several different podcasts. I had my own podcast too for a while, but I've kind of had to give that up for the business. But yeah, I always love podcasts because it gives me a chance to have good conversation with people like you, Josh.
Oh, thank you. Is there anything you want to plug or anything before I let you run?
More than anything, if you want to see what we do, you want to see how we built a faith-based organization that's for profit, just go to ace-consulting.net and you'll see kind of what we do and who we are.
Awesome. Well,